Let's talk more about the implications of this move now with Dobek Pater, who's the MD of Africa Analysis. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Now, is it really necessary for ICASA to be taking the spectrum back?
It's probably not necessary at this point in time. In fact, what has been happening since the assignment of the spectrum in April 2020, which was originally provisioned for about 3 months, we've seen extensions of that spectrum as the state of disaster continued and various levels of lockdown continued during the pandemic. And also, I think we need to look at it in conjunction with the expected auction to take place, which would result in a signing of this high demand spectrum to the operators that end up being successful in the auction. Now, that spectrum auction was supposed to take place last year. That did not happen. It will take place hopefully in Q1 2022, and the objective was effectively to keep the temporary spectrum in place with the operators until such time as the auction is concluded, and some of that spectrum would probably have then been incorporated as, within the auction process into the spectrum that the operators end up being winning and having assigned to them or licensed to them.
Right. I mean, while we have this temporary allocation of spectrum, what benefits has it provided for mobile users? Has it reduced congestion? And has it made things like data much cheaper?
It has certainly provided benefits to the society at large, to South Africa. And the reason for that is that operators are, particularly large operators, MTN, Vodacom, are strapped for high demand spectrum. They effectively have been what's called refarming, reusing the same spectrum they have for the past 10 years plus in order to introduce new technologies, 4G, fourth generation, now fifth generation technologies. And they've been entering into partnerships with smaller operators that do have access to some of that spectrum in order to be able to continue building out their networks and providing better quality services. Now, as you indicated, during the hard lockdown last year in 2020, and subsequently, a lot of people ended up being locked at home, doing work from home, education from home, a greater extent of entertainment from home. Data consumption grew astronomically. MTN claims they've seen over the past year 160% plus increase in data. And the point is that data consumption is not going to decrease as the pandemic abates and we go back to living without lockdowns on the horizon, because that was the course of things that were into which the direction in which we're moving. It's just that the pandemic expedited that whole process by locking people up at home and forcing them to rely on personal data connectivity, whether it's mobile or fixed at home, in order to continue with daily activities. So the additional spectrum has helped immensely. Whether it has decreased prices of data, that's probably debatable or not to a great extent. I think what has decreased prices of data is to an extent government intervention through the Competition Commission that we saw last year, and also effectively ongoing competition between the operators in the market. When operators are able to use new spectrum that they receive from the market regulator, it takes a little bit of time in order for that to filter through to lower data prices.
Very interesting insights, and of course it's a conversation that will continue to track as we approach the November, well, the month of November, where ICASA has indicated that the spectrum will be taken back. That's Dobek Pater, MD of Africa Analysis, bringing us insight into the battle for spectrum that is currently taking place in the country. Let me